Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast. Hey there, Karma Crew. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mind Your Own Karma Beyond the Bandage. If you're tuning in today, I know something about you. You're not someone who buys into quick fixes or scary statistics. You're a seeker who knows that healing, even fertility healing, might have deeper roots. That's why I'm super excited to introduce Dr. Aumatma to you, a double board certified naturopathic endocrinologist who's revolutionizing fertility care. Instead of drugs or draining bank accounts, she helps couples uncover and heal the real reasons behind their struggles. She's helped hundreds of so-called medically hopeless couples conceive naturally, and she's here to share her blueprint for true fertility freedom. It's time to rip off the bandage and dive in because this episode might just solve your fertility problems. We are welcoming Dr. Aumatma to the show today. Hello.
Thanks for having me, Melissa. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. I know that the Karma Crew is going to get so much out of this perspective. What you're doing in the infertility world. Super excited to talk to you about that today. But let's start about you a little bit. You're double board certified in naturopathic endocrinology. What pulled you to the infertility field as your
Yeah,
focus?
yeah, that's a great question. I started out as a general naturopathic doctor, and about 4 or 5 years into my practice, I was married to this man who wanted to have children, and my intuition with him was not to have children with him. But I didn't know that. Like, I was already married at that point. So it
Yeah.
was a little bit of a wake-up call, a little bit of like, oh crap, if that is true, then I should probably think about doing something different and, like finding the right person to have children with before I run out of time, and
Mm,
kind of went into panic mode a little bit, because so much of fertility is founded on this idea that fertility drops off of a cliff for women at 35. So
yeah.
I said, okay, well, if that's true, then I should probably get on it because I have like 2 more years before my time runs out. And as I was in the process of trying to decide if I should just have a child with him, even if my intuition was saying no, or wait and find the right person, I really was trying to put those pieces together for me and like try to figure out what could I do to support and ensure my fertility would last later. And
Mm,
in the process of that, I realized that the idea that fertility drops off of a cliff at 35 is not actually true. It
mm.
wasn't founded in anything scientific. It's actually something that we still believe based on records from the 1800s in France, where there are
Oh my
records of churches talking about women not coming to get their children baptized after the age of 35. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, well, if that's true, then like what was happening to women in the 1800s in France? And the average life expectancy for women in that time period was 32.8. So they were literally dying before they could have more children.
oh wow.
So when I realized that, then everything kind of shifted for me, and I started talking about it with my friends, and they were like, "Oh, I'm struggling with fertility. Maybe you can help me." And that was it. It was just like ended up falling into it because I was so deep in the research and just
Mhm.
trying to figure out what I could do for myself in the process
Yeah.
of wanting to have children one day, but not necessarily right now with the right person and all of that. So, yeah, so I kind of fell into
Interesting.
it.
Interesting how the universe steers us to what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Uses all kinds of ways. So
Yeah.
you did talk about the fertility cliff. Why do you say that that's a myth? And what have you seen in your patients?
Yeah, yeah. So the biggest is that science, and there are some smaller studies that have been coming out in the last 5 years or so that are showing that there is a decline in fertility, but it's less of a cliff and more of like a gradual decline. And that decline is very small. So they've compared age groups like 25 to 29 versus 35 to 39. And they found that there's only like a 3% decline between those two age groups.
Oh,
So
wow.
to me, that's more evidence than not. And then
Hmm.
B, like, yes, there is some decline, right? Like we're aging. All of us are
Yeah.
aging. Men are
Yeah.
also having fertility decline. So it's not just
We don't talk
women.
about that though.
We don't talk about that. We honestly like we don't talk about it enough. And statistically, their decline is actually happening at scary rates. So even looking at young men, 18 to 25, they're seeing fertility decline in these young men that are not even trying to have children yet, but they can see that there is a drastic drop off in sperm count, motility, and testosterone levels.
Mm,
So there's something that is evidence based that's happening that I feel like we kind of shove under the rug and not talk about at all. And that women like kind of shoulder so much of the responsibility when it comes to fertility
yeah.
and family creation, when in fact it's a dual responsibility. So
Yeah.
that I'm super passionate about making sure that couples are aware and that just because their doctor said that the male partner is perfect and there's nothing wrong, that we don't stop there and we actually do deeper levels of evaluation because what they're being told is actually very far from the truth. So
Yeah.
we can
So let's
definitely get
talk
into
about that
that.
a little bit. When a
Yeah,
couple comes to you, where do you start as far as you
testing
just,
and yeah.
yeah, and all that stuff? What does that look like?
Yeah. So on the kind of like level one of a starting point is understanding like how long have you been trying to conceive? If they are 2 to 5 years into their journey, then it looks slightly different than if they're just starting out. So if someone were
Hmm.
just starting out and they're at that point where they're like, well, I went to my doctor, the doctor said there's nothing to worry about. I need to give it 12 months of trying before they will even do any kind of testing for
Hmm.
me. For those people, I think that a really good starting point is to do some degree of assessment and gaining awareness about our bodies that I think gets pushed off far too long. I feel like if you're waiting 12 months to quote unquote try without any testing, without any evaluation, without even to the extent where women could be having anovulatory cycles but don't even realize that they're not ovulating. And if you're not
Hmm.
ovulating, you're not getting pregnant. So for me, I feel like 12 months is a very long period of time to go without any evaluation and workup and understanding. So
Yeah.
for those women or those couples, we generally are suggesting that they do some level of evaluation. And it may not be testing. It can, I've been for the last 3 years creating some technology to help evaluate what might be happening for couples without a lot of testing. So we can understand like, hey, if you have PMS, if you have cramps, if you have GI distress, if you have fatigue, like these are all like little flags that your body is sending
Hmm.
out that is a signal for I'm going to need a little bit of support. And if your body is sending out distress signals, trying to conceive is the opposite of what is going to be healthy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really like important to for someone to evaluate and say, hey, actually you have like 15 of these distress signals going out every month. You really should take a step back and instead of starting to try, focus on these things for a little bit of time. As your symptoms improve, then you can go back to trying and then give
Hmm.
it your full number of months of trying to do testing if that's what you would like to do.
Yeah.
So,
So I have a question real quick about something you
yeah,
said, and I might
yeah.
sound really dumb right now, but you said something about having a cycle without ovulating.
Oh, yes.
I
Uh-huh.
didn't know that you could have a cycle without ovulating.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
a
I
lot
did
of
not know that.
women do not know that.
Did not
So
know
the
that.
assumption is that every time you have a cycle, you have ovulated, right? Because technically what happens is after you ovulate, um, progesterone is being made, and there's a building of the uterine lining, which is going to shed when you have your period.
Hmm.
However, you can go through a period where you don't actually release a follicle or an egg, but your body still does its normal, what it's used to, and still has the shed.
Oh,
So
wow.
you could, you can have it in a very normal, regular amount of time. So let's say you didn't ovulate in a cycle, but you still had a 27-day cycle.
Hmm.
And for on the surface, you're like, well, that's what it normally is.
Yeah.
But let's suppose that you're trying to conceive and this is happening for you multiple times. Like it's not a once in a while thing. It's like frequently that you're not ovulating, yet you're
Hmm.
menstruating. If that happens, then every month that you thought you were trying, but you had zero chance of conception
Yeah.
is problematic.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the other thing is, and like I haven't talked about this that much because it can feel scary, but you could, let's say you have a fallopian tube blockage that isn't going to allow the egg that
Hmm.
was released to even get through or the sperm to get through where it can meet the egg, the likelihood of conception is very, very low.
Right.
And so if someone were to have this blockage, it's kind of going to be a lot harder or very unlikely to get pregnant. If both fallopian tubes are blocked, they have a 0% chance. If they have one side blocked, it's a 50% chance because theoretically you're going to ovulate
Yeah.
from the opposite side every month. So, yeah, there are these like little nuances that are important for us to know about, right?
Yeah. How do you
And
know in a patient if they aren't ovulating and still having regular periods? How do you
yeah,
figure
that's
that
a
out?
great question. So there's only really two ways that you can know. One is confirmation. And confirmation is if you are monitoring your basal body temperatures, your temperature will increase after ovulation and it will stay high, theoretically. It should stay high
Right.
after ovulation. If your temperature never rises, which like I'll have women that come in with 3 years worth of temperature charts, and I'm like,
Wow.
you didn't ovulate 80% of the time here. And they're like,
Wow.
what? And I'm like, I can flip through cycle after cycle after cycle and just be like, no ovulation, no ovulation,
Oh
no
my
ovulation.
gosh.
And that that has happened extremely often that women think that they're trying and they're like, oh, well, we tried, we had sex, we like, I followed this app that told me when I was ovulating and I assumed that I ovulated. And I'm
Right.
like, well, unfortunately, you didn't. So the best way to know is basal body temperature tracking. That's the confirmation. The other way is ovulation predictor kits.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, they're called that for a reason. They can only predict if ovulation is about to happen, but they didn't actually confirm that it happened. So
Oh,
basically, you got the surge for ovulation to happen, which is the luteinizing hormone. And all of the test strips are looking for this hormone on in urine. So if you got that surge of LH, then the assumption is you're going to ovulate. But again, you don't know for sure until you've got the confirmation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
I think it's,
the temperature is the best
yeah,
indicator then.
yeah.
So you created the restorative fertility method. Can you break down what that is and how it works?
Yeah. So the restorative fertility method is as simple as 4 steps: reveal, remove, rebalance, receive. So reveal is let's figure out what's happening, right? The woman that brings me 3 years of basal body temperature charts, that's my dream case,
Yeah,
right? I can look
right.
at that and be like, I know exactly what's happening. Um, so I want to evaluate and be able to say, hey, you might have gut inflammation, or you have food sensitivities, or you have microbiome issues, or your hormones are out of balance, whatever it is. I want to evaluate so that I know what's happening as a provider that wants to address what's actually going on under the surface. Because my assumption is that your body wants to procreate. All of us, as humanity, we are designed for procreation.
Hmm.
So if it's not happening, there's usually a reason for it. And uh, like 20% of fertility cases are called unexplained infertility, quote unquote. And
Hmm.
I would venture to say that actually way more and more and more people coming to us that are saying, well, my doctor never told me. I don't know why I can't get pregnant. Uh, so I think that understanding what's happening under the surface, what's going on under the radar, is the most important step. Without that,
Yeah,
all the protocols and diets and supplements, nothing matters because you're not looking at what's actually happening. It's sort of like, oh, my car's making all of these sounds, but I'm going to take it to a mechanic who's just going to like put oil in the tank and hope that it fixes the problem. And it's like,
yeah,
well, your car's still clicking, and he didn't really figure out why your car is clicking. Um,
right,
we would never sign up for that. Yet we sign up
right.
for that all the time in the fertility world. So I think it's very, very, very important. The second piece is remove. And remove is what are all the blocks that are in our way? And often it loosely translates to detox, but it doesn't stop at detox. So, detox is an important piece. It's getting rid of the things in our environment that are going to create obstacles to fertility, but it's also going to be let's remove things like mold, which we're not often
Hmm.
thinking about. But mold is creating kind of this constant underlying stressor that your body is now feeling like it's under attack. The immune system's overactivated, and you're doing whatever you can. You're like, well, I have air filters and I have all of this stuff. And sometimes the easiest solution is we just have to get you out of that scenario, right? We had a couple recently who this woman has went through 11 pregnancy losses.
Oh, wow.
11 losses, which to me I'm like, "Oh my God, this is insane." And her doctors are like, "Well, there's nothing we can do. We don't really know what's going on." We assessed her for so long and we were like, "We think it's mold. We think it's
Mm.
mold." And finally, they got someone to their house to look for mold. Sure enough, there was mold present. They reported it to their landlord. The landlord's like, sorry, tough shit. We're not doing anything
Yeah.
about it. Um, so they opted to move and they just moved into a new home because the easiest solution for us is to get you out of the situation. It's not to try and fix your body, to give you supplements to override the signal that your immune system is getting. It's like, no, your immune system is reacting because you're being exposed to this thing that you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And it's annoying or frustrating, but it's like the reality is we just have to remove the scenario that's creating the problem. So
Yeah.
remove
Wow.
is the second. Then we rebalance. And the rebalance it can and is most of the time like the longest part of the process. It's like we not just want to rebalance estrogen and progesterone, but we want to rebalance the thyroid, the adrenals, the gut health, the immune system. We want to address all the layers that we've figured out about what's happening in your body. Why is your body giving the signal to not procreate? And then finally, receive, which is my favorite part in a lot of ways because that's where the transformation happens. And the
Yeah.
receive is to put ourselves in a state of receptiveness. And as women, a lot of the women that we work with are high achievers. They love their jobs, they love their career, or even if they're stay at home, they're like go getters at home, right? Like
Yeah.
there's, you can take the job away and still have the person not change
Yeah.
anything about how they do stuff. So the the self-proclaimed like control freaks, quote unquote. And this is like one of my clients who she was so funny. I like I was working with her for 3 months, 38 years old. She'd had three pregnancy losses, three I failed IVF cycles. She's like, I don't know what's happening. Please help me. And she would like come into the office and start looking at her clock, her watch on her wrist, and like, I have 15 minutes before I have to get going. And I'm like, this
Wow.
is a 2 hour appointment. Like, I'm not
Oh,
going to get
wow.
anywhere in 15 minutes. And she's like, no, I gotta go. I don't have all that time. Like, what can you do in 15 minutes? And I'm like, okay. So this was going on for like 2 months. And finally, I was like, listen, will you have more time on a weekend? Like, I will put myself, like,
Wow.
reset my schedule so that I can meet with you via video on the weekend. And she was like, okay, fine. So I meet with her on a Saturday and we're on Zoom. And she's like walking all around her house. And I was like, oh my God, everything is pristine, like pristine white. Well, her couches, her chairs, her kitchen, literally everything was white. And I was like, oh my God, you are a control freak. And she was like, what? I was like, do you resonate with that? Is that what are you into control? And she just starts weeping. She's like, I've
Oh,
been like this my entire life. This has been my mode my entire life. And I was like, okay, I got it. I've got this now. I figured it out. And I gave her a remedy that helps to kind of shift out of this like intense need for control. And she was a C-suite executive, had zero time. It was a startup, so she was like working 80-hour weeks.
oh, gee.
And then when I asked about her partner, she's like, "Well, he doesn't work, so I have to like work harder to like make our life work." And I was like, "Okay." So I gave her this remedy. 3 weeks later, her husband calls me. I never met this man. And he calls me up and he's like, what did you give my wife? And I was like, is she okay? I was a little scared. And he's like, can you give me a gallon of whatever it was? And I was like, no, what happened? And he's like, she is a whole different person. She's the person that I
Wow.
fell in love with, but she's a different
Wow.
person. Um, he's like, she stopped controlling me. And
Mm.
in that 3 weeks, he managed to find a job after 3 years. He got his act together. He was now like suddenly like the masculine energy, making money, all the things. And she was a different person. She was like
Wow.
chilled out. So that like it's not relax, quote unquote, for those of you that are listening. It's not like a relax from the perspective of, oh, I just figured out how to relax and I went on vacation and then we got pregnant. This is like a deep level of relax that actually allows your heart to open and for you to be able to receive this gift of child. Um,
Mm.
and it's I like I never can describe it super well, but I know when people have gotten there because they will let go of the anxiety and the like, oh my God, I have to control everything. And here I found 5 articles about why I shouldn't take this thing that you're telling me to take. And I'm
Oh, wow.
like, you gotta stop. Like, yeah, I can tell them to stop all day long, but the
Yeah.
shift happens when
Yeah.
they can actually like let go and surrender. And when they can do that, I'm like, okay, they're gonna get pregnant now. So
Wow.
that's my favorite phase because this like degree of transformation happens. It doesn't happen for everyone,
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
but we like to see it happen for the majority of our people. And if we're able to have that transformation happen, then we know that their chances of getting pregnant just went through the roof.
Yeah.
Versus when they can't or they're not willing to let go, then it's a little bit harder. A little bit harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we talk about stress and toxins and things going on in the body, how does that really factor into sabotaging fertility? Because I mean, if you're still
Mm,
ovulating, you could still get pregnant, but how do those things stop you from getting pregnant?
yeah. So thank you. That's a great question. So I'll give you the scientific question or the scientific response, and then I'll give you the actual response. And I think it's the actual response because it helps us to understand why the body's responding the way that it's responding. So when we have toxins, mold, the things in our environment that are not aligned for us, our body is deciding in every one of those instances, am I safe enough to reproduce?
Mm,
Or is this thing going to put me into survival mode? And it's not always a conscious decision, right? Your body's making this decision without you knowing about it,
yeah.
especially if you don't even know the mold exists. Or I'm
Hmm.
just picking on mold, but it
Yeah.
could be literally anything. It could be the boss that you hate or whatever is in your life that is out of alignment. Your body is deciding survival, survival, survival. And if that message is overwhelmingly loud, the message that allows for reproduction is I am safe. So
Hmm.
if you're in survival, you're not in safety. And if you're not in safety, it's really hard for your body to override that natural impulse of I'm good and I can have a child and that child will be good. So it's like a protective mechanism to keep you and your baby safe. And
Hmm.
if that, if your body can't have that feeling, then it stays in survival mode. And sometimes we will see that so present overwhelmingly in even labs, right? So we'll see someone with a flat line of cortisol. Just saw a woman like that yesterday. Like
Wow.
there's an optimal And then there's the flat line. And she was a flat line of cortisol. Cortisol was there, cortisone was a flat line. So basically, like for years, her entire body has been in survival mode for so many years that there's no reserves left. Her body's like, I'm
Hmm.
done. I'm not making this hormone anymore because
Yeah.
I've been on this like go, 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 do, do, do for my entire life. I cannot do it anymore. And she's only 36. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, well, I'm looking at this like the best thing that we can support you with is replenishing your bucket. If your bucket is empty, you're running on empty, your body is constantly in a state of survival. Your hormones can't um, make it or make up for the fact that you're in survival mode. And you're constantly sending out the signal of, I'm not safe. So your body doesn't allow you to reproduce, or you get pregnant and have a loss, which is her scenario.
Hmm.
So she's had three
Yeah.
pregnancy losses.
Mm.
But her body, like the instant she gets pregnant, her body goes, nope, we're not doing that, and like
Yeah.
ends the pregnancy.
Wow.
So the way that we get her out of this is really support filling up her bucket so that her body can go, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm not in survival mode anymore. And she's like, but I already quit my job. I'm already like doing a part-time. I work from home. I'm good. I'm not stressed. I'm like, yes, you're not stressed now,
Mm.
but your body was there for years. And
Yeah.
because it didn't have the reserves that it needed, like even though you're not uh, stressed out now, your body is still in that survival mode because it's stuck in that pattern from years. And
Yeah. I
she's
think a
like,
lot of
oh, I
people
finally
get,
get it.
a lot of people can trick themselves into thinking they're fine. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, all the alarms are going off in their
Mm-hmm.
bodies and they just are
Mm-hmm.
so unaware. We're
Yeah.
not used to checking in at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the real reason. The
Yeah.
scientific reason is where all the research is, which is things like toxins have a reproductive impact. So there are things in our environment that are considered reproductive toxins, mostly because they impact specific hormonal pathways. So, for example, bisphenol compounds, which are all the plastic related compounds, BPA, BPS, BPF,
Hmm.
um, they are going to be present in our environment, our body takes it in, and then those compounds bind to estrogen receptors. So they fool the body into thinking that it's estrogen, and then it
Mm.
has the impact of estrogen, even if you didn't make it. So it's throwing things out of whack without
Yeah.
you realizing that your reproductive hormones are out of whack. So you can essentially like your hormone levels look fine. In men, they actually start to show that they're off faster. So if we go back to that like testosterone issue that men are having, it's massive decline in testosterone levels. I believe that part of that is the body has so many of these estrogen mimicking compounds that it's sending the signal back to the brain that it does not need any more testosterone. So the brain sends out a signal that says, don't make any more testosterone.
Huh.
But it's because the estrogen is binding to these receptors and the brain is going, oh my God, so much estrogen. We don't need more estrogen. And testosterone is the precursor to estrogen. So the brain goes,
Mm.
oh, time to turn off that testosterone production so we can get less estrogen.
Huh.
So the things that will kind of feedback and the brain is either support, it's always trying to find homeostasis, right? Like, what can I do? is the brain's question. What can I do? Great. I can send
Yeah.
out the signal and it will stop and it will flip the switch and we'll turn that off. So the brain is doing the best it can to kind of manage the homeostasis that our body needs. But these toxic compounds that come in from the environment tend to throw things off, and they're disrupting these feedback loops that give the brain misinformation essentially about what's going on.
Yeah. That's crazy. Can you share a fertility story from one of your probably lots of clients that inspired you?
Yeah, let's see. This is yeah, this is a good one. This is a recent one. So I haven't talked about her much yet. She's a 39-year-old female married to a guy that is 45, 46, something like that. And he's ex-military. This guy came in taking about 80 supplements.
Oh gosh.
Um, 80 different supplements. And he's like, "Oh, I studied all of this and I'm like, I know what I need." And I was like, "Okay, this is a lot of supplements. Let's just get that out onto the table." And they had had one pregnancy loss, but she was very scared because she was like, "Well, I don't have time to go through so many losses. Like, I need something now." I and her ovarian reserve was low. Her hormones were kind of going into perimenopause where we'll see a lot of shifting hormones, shifting cycles, irregularities. So she was in that phase where her hormones had
Hmm.
started shifting, her cycles were irregular, and her ovarian reserve was very low.
What's an ovarian
And
reserve?
ovarian reserve is like the number of eggs that are potential to turn into follicles in the
Okay.
ovaries.
Okay.
And we measure it loosely with something called anti-Müllerian hormone, AMH.
Mm.
So that number is very popular in the fertility world.
Okay.
And it's not a one for one. So it doesn't say like, oh, point 0.1 means you have 100 eggs left. It just is like we know that at 35 it should be around 3 and then it's going to decline with age, but we don't actually know. There's a lot of variation between
Okay.
people, right?
Okay.
So we have general senses of like, yeah, that's kind of low, but we don't have like a cutoff or we don't have like data on what it exactly has to be
Yeah.
because everyone starts out with a different number.
Right. Okay.
So it's a very estimated number. But either way, her AMH was 0.23, which is very low for
Mm.
39. At 39, I want to see it like around 1. So
Hmm.
that is always for me a concern because if you run out of eggs, then there's not a
Yeah.
whole lot natural medicine
Right.
can do.
Right.
So so that's where we were starting out and we did some labs and our process with people now is that we work with couples. So if they're in a coupledom, they both have to be working with us. It's not optional. Back
Good.
in the
Yeah.
day, it was optional. But now I'm like, absolutely not. We don't take chances anymore.
Good. Yeah.
So this guy came in and we basically, like, his blood work showed that he had massive liver failure. Um,
Whoa.
that like his liver enzymes were just off the charts. And to the point where like I've never seen anything that bad. So I said to him, "Listen, I need you to go to your primary care. I need you to have someone else look at this because this is
Hmm.
not good. From my eyes, this is very, very, very bad." And and he went to his doctor, and the doctor was like, "Yeah, you have fatty liver, but whatever. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. Let's just keep an eye on it." So he came
Wow.
back and he was like, that was very not helpful. I don't know what to do now. What do you think? And I was like, ugh, this is really not a good place for us to be because we don't know what's going to
Yeah.
happen. Um, Over the last 6 months, we've gotten his liver enzymes down. So his liver is
Wow.
now in a state of normal. It's not optimal, but it's
Wow.
normal. Um, he also had blood sugar issues, which we fixed, and um, I feel like he had a methylation. Methylation is a fancy term for like how your body processes hormones, neurotransmitters, vitamins, minerals, all kinds of things in the body are dependent on this pathway called methylation. His um, homocysteine is like a byproduct of methylation. So when that process doesn't go well, homocysteine starts going up higher and higher and higher.
Mm.
So in the conventional world, a homocysteine over 14 is very bad. It puts you at risk for a heart attack, it's inflammation, it's all kinds of things that even a conventional doctor would consider bad.
Yeah.
His homocysteine was at 40.
Oh, wow.
So that was another, like, basically, this is not good. This is not a good
Yeah.
scenario. If your homocysteine is that high, you are, your sperm have DNA that is like not ideal. It's not a healthy DNA. So the likelihood that you're going to make embryos or contribute to making embryos that are bad is really high.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, it's no surprise that she had a pregnancy loss. Like, yes, her hormones are all over the place, but your homocysteine is high, your blood sugar is high, and you have liver failure. All of those are going to create very crappy sperm that are not going to support fertility, not support you guys to have a child.
Yeah.
So we worked on all of those things. All of his levels are now within normal, happily, happy to say. And they just got pregnant. I think they're 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks since the positive
Oh, wow.
pregnancy test. So our fingers are
Fingers
crossed. We
crossed.
have lots of
Yes.
prayers,
Yes.
um, but they're looking like it could be a positive outcome because we now have ideally like his sperm have improved. Her hormones are a bit better. So we have the right scenario for a good
Yeah.
outcome.
Well, it's
Um,
crazy because most medical facilities dealing with infertility just do a sperm count and they're like, You're good. We're done looking at you, everything's fine."
yeah.
We don't think about all these deeper issues that could be going on that could cause a miscarriage on the male side of it. So it's interesting to hear you
Yes.
talk about that and
Yeah.
how all these things can contribute to a failed pregnancy.
Yep. And those three factors are probably the biggest. So high homocysteine, high blood sugar or insulin levels, and liver function are the three things on the male side that are connected to pregnancy loss in the woman in
Yeah. Wow.
research. So there's lots of research studies that prove this. This is not me making it up. 10 years ago, I was making
Yeah.
this up, but now the research exists. Uh, I have seen this from the beginning. So I have like
Wow.
very early cases where I was like, well, it doesn't really make sense. Let's look at the guy and let's figure out what's happening on his side. And I saw this pattern of the homocysteine or blood sugar in 99% of guys
Oh
whose
gosh.
partner had had a pregnancy loss. They had one of those two factors. And I was
Wow.
like, this is weird. Like it just keeps repeating. So I have always followed that. Like we need to test the guys now. We need to know what's happening, and we need to not leave it to your sperm are fine. Most of these guys have perfectly normal sperm,
Hmm.
but they still have these underlying issues, which is
Yeah.
going to determine the pregnancy outcome.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, really, really,
Okay.
really wild.
So you train doctors through your Fertile Foundations program. What do practitioners need most when shifting into the holistic fertility care?
I think they honestly, it depends on what kind of practitioner it is. So some practitioners are already like functional medicine doctors that we're training to become fertility specialists. They see the connections. They just need the more nuance, like how does this relate to fertility? How does having H. pylori, for example, relate to fertility outcomes? It does. Um, so we're making those connections for them versus some people that are just starting out that are like, oh, I'm a nutritionist or I have this background in medicine, but I want to specialize in fertility. I want to help the people that are struggling with this. And for them, it's a little bit of a larger leap of being able to understand what does it mean to have a root cause? What are the common root causes? How do we approach those causes with kind of a structure and pattern that is going to support better outcomes for the couples that are struggling? So we'll I've been training both. Like we have a lot of functional doctors in our program, but we also have like nutritionists, or even more general, like physician assistant type people that have a medical background, but aren't necessarily like hormone experts or functional medicine experts.
Mhm.
So we can help them kind of take their foundation, which is in more general medicine, and say, great, let's help you make the leap from what you know and understand to what was not taught to you in medical school around the root cause approach, around functional medicine testing, around like understanding what hormones do and where they convert into what, so that they can really like take it and start running with it.
Yeah. So you describe your work as disruptive. What do you think most challenges the conventional fertility model?
I mean, all of it. I feel like it's all of it. I think that we, because the conventional fertility model at its core is based on the idea that the woman is the problem, that her age is the biggest factor in whether or not she's going to have a good outcome, and that we can fix it with a degree of hormones and manipulating the cycle to have the outcome we
Yeah.
want. My model is the woman is not the problem. It's only 50% of the equation, that her age is dependent on, like, yes, it's probably going to have a factor to play, but it's not going to be the only factor. And there's lots of evidence that we can actually reverse her biological age. So
Mm.
her chronological age can be 44, but if her bio age is 35, I don't really care what her chronological age is.
Yeah.
So our answer is almost never, sorry, you're too old, right? Like, that's not an answer that I'm okay with. And then lastly, that we are not going to control her body or her hormones, but instead we're going to figure out why her body's not doing what it's designed to do. So I
Mm.
feel like it's a complete left turn. And that's not to say that we don't work collaboratively with
Yeah.
IVF, right? So I think IVF is amazing. I think it has value. I think that where it really falls short is understanding the complexity of what fertility is, and discounts often a lot, right? I
Yeah.
have people that come back and are like, well, my doctor said diet makes no difference. And I'm like, let me show you the ASRM study that shows that there is a difference. It's like very conventional research that is supporting everything that we do. But it's not translating to medicine, to conventional medicine
Yeah.
yet. And the reason for that is like there's about a 20-year lag in studies coming out to actually shifting how practitioners practice. So we're
Yeah.
20 years behind, like conventional medicine is always going to be 20 years behind.
Yeah.
So so we help to like bridge that gap to, hey, if you need IVF, cool, let's talk about it. But let's make sure that we've addressed all of the underlying things so that you can get pregnant in your first try with IVF, not have to go through 6 cycles before you have a successful pregnancy.
Yeah.
So we can really like shorten the time that it takes for people to get pregnant and stay pregnant and and in the process of that support them to live healthier longer lives, support the epigenetics of the future baby and have that baby be the healthiest that it can be. So it really like flips fertility on its head
Yeah.
and says
Yeah.
there's so much more that we could be doing that we're not doing.
Right.
um so yeah.
Yeah. So for couples listening right now who feel completely hopeless, what words of encouragement do you have for them?
Well, I hope that what they're hearing out of this conversation is, oh, maybe it's not my age, and maybe there's something I can do about what's happening
Yeah.
with me and my partner. And I feel like knowledge is power. So being able to understand that there might be something that was missed along their
Hmm.
journey, or that, oh, I never thought about it that way, or I've had 32-year-olds, 30-year-olds be told, oh, it's because your age. That's why you're not having a successful IVF cycle. And I like sit down and analyze their reports with them. And well, like several of these women that have been through 6 rounds of IVF that will sit down and say, oh, look, you had 30 eggs that were retrieved. 20 to 30 eggs in every cycle. That's really, really good. They introduce the sperm, and then you have 2 embryos. What do you think is happening? And they're like, well, could something be wrong with the sperm? Because my doctor said it's my age and my eggs. And I'm like, yeah, but nothing happened to those eggs till the sperm was introduced. So
Yeah.
it being able to think outside of the box and say, oh, what if I approached it differently? What if I understood what's happening in my body, got myself assessed and evaluated for what are the root causes, what could potentially be happening? Then you have a different degree of hope that didn't come out of some hearing someone say everyone can get pregnant. It's not a false
Yeah.
sense of hope here. Like I'm not that person, but to really like base it in, here's your data, here's what's happening in your body. That's all I have for hope. Like the hope is that information gives you enough to be like, oh, I now I get it, right? Now
Yeah.
I understand, and now I can do
Right.
something about it.
Yeah. So do you see people virtually? Can people find you and do this
Hmm.
over Zoom?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. We are solely virtual, and we have a very consulting based practice. So I'm not your doctor. I encourage people to stay with the doctor that they have. And then we work collaboratively within that paradigm to support them because,
Yeah.
yeah, there's just more people that are struggling than we can support. So I am very much of a believer that, the more collaboration and the more we're
Yeah.
able to guide people to here's your best choices and your best options, the better outcomes we're going to have. And hopefully we can like help all of the couples, the millions and millions of couples that are struggling around the world with just the simple basic need to want to have a family.
Yeah. Well, we definitely need to clone you and have a bunch. So tell
Yeah.
people where they can find you and get in touch with you and all those things.
Awesome. So the best place to connect is on Instagram at Holistic Fertility Doctor. And the if you've heard something here that you're like, oh, I need an evaluation, I actually did clone that part, and that is madrefertility.com. So madre as in mother in Spanish and fertility, madrefertility.com. And that's a free analysis. You guys can just go to that website, do the step by step. It'll take you like 20 minutes to fill out this set of questionnaires. And at the end of it, you'll have an evaluation of what might be happening under the surface that
Wow,
hasn't been looked at.
that's awesome. Well, we'll have all those links in the show notes. Thank you for coming on and sharing your expertise today. Yeah, you've blown my mind in a lot of different ways. And I think I will be able to help even just my patients that I see in the sonogram office with some of the things that you've said today. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your awesome questions.
Dr. Aumatma reminded us today that fertility isn't about ticking clocks or expensive treatments. It's about listening to the body, healing at the root, and reclaiming hope. If you want to learn more about her work, all her links are in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. And if today's conversation sparked something in you, know that somatic mindful guided imagery can also help you connect with your body's wisdom. Whether you're working through fertility, grief, or healing patterns from the past, you can learn more about all of that at somatichealingjourneys.com. If you're a practitioner with a unique healing modality you think would be a great fit for this show, I'd love to hear from you. You can email me at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com to apply as a guest. Thanks for listening today, Karma Crew. And as always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.